Hey guys, welcome back to another Clash Royale video, and today we finally have some balance changes to talk about. The balance changes aren't live yet. They will go live on January 24th, which is tomorrow if you are watching this video right now. But we're going to go ahead and just jump right into all of the balance change news. So first and foremost, I'm sure nobody is surprised to see this first change right here, which is the nerf to the Royal Ghost. Now, the Royal Ghost damage is being decreased by 6%, the invisibility delay being increased from 0.7 seconds to 1.2 seconds, almost a double increase right there, meaning it now takes longer for the Royal Ghost to go invisible after attacking a target, and the hit speed being increased as well from 1.7 seconds to 1.8 seconds. I'm pretty surprised with how hard they nerfed the Royal Ghost, at least so far it appears. Damage, attack speed, as well as invisibility delay. If it were up to me, I probably would have just nerfed the delay at first to see if it was still as strong. Now, the second card on the list right here is actually the Zappies, getting a pretty massive buff. They will now be able to target both ground and air units, which is very important, especially in the current meta with the Infernal Dragon being so popular. The Zappies are now another effective counter for that card. Now, the next card on this list right here, guys, is the Hunter, getting a decent buff. Now, initially, it seems like a nerf because the range is being decreased from 5 to 4, but you have to remember, the Hunter does more damage the closer it is to a target, so by decreasing the range, you actually almost increase his DPS. Now, the important thing here, at the end here, it says projectile range remains 6.5 tiles. So what this means is even though they reduced his range from 5 to 4, his bullets still travel the same distance and his range is the same overall, and overall it is just a net increase to his damage. Now, the next one right here, guys, might be a bit of a surprise for you guys. The Night Witch getting a buff. The initial bats now spawn a little bit quicker, which seems pretty strange because the Night Witch is pretty balanced overall. Why would it be getting a buff? Well, the next change on the list right here, guys, is the bats getting a nerf with their hit speed going from 1 second to 1.1 second. So considering the Night Witch was balanced beforehand and the bats were a bit too strong, if they nerf the bats, they have to buff the Night Witch in some way to compensate for the nerf to the bats. Now, the next change right here, guys, is the Lava Hound getting a small 5% increase in hit points. Definitely a much deserved buff over there because Lava Hound popularity has definitely dropped drastically over the past couple of months, so definitely happy to see that card getting a buff right there. Now, the next change here, I was kind of hoping for a little bit more of a nerf, and that is for the Goblin Hut. The spawn speed being increased from 4.9 seconds to 5 seconds, which means a grand total of 1 less goblin spawn per Goblin Hut. Personally, I was kind of hoping for like a duration decrease or a health nerf, because the Goblin Hut is a pretty tanky building, but I guess it does cost 5 elixir, so it is pretty expensive. So maybe 1 less goblin is enough of a nerf so that the Goblin Hut won't be so crazily dominant in almost every single deck in the game. Now, moving on here, we only have 3 more changes to talk about. The first 2 I'm very happy about, and the final one I'm insanely happy about. So we have the Mini Packet getting a health increase by 7%. Same thing with the Lumberjack. Those 2 cards weren't really used too much in the current meta, so I'm definitely pretty happy with that, especially the Lumberjack for a legendary card. I definitely feel like it could probably even use a bit more of a buff over that. But the final change here, guys, I'm so happy about, and let me know if you guys agree, the Mortar getting a nerf. So the Mortar minimum range is being decreased from 4.5 tiles to 3.5 tiles, which means they are decreasing the dead zone around that Mortar, making it a bit easier to distract. So currently, if you have something like a Giant or a Knight or whatever go in the same lane of the Mortar, as soon as it gets even a bit close to that Mortar, the Mortar retargets to your tower, but now the Mortar will stay locked onto your unit a little bit longer. I'm definitely pretty happy with that change. The only other ways you could have nerfed the Mortar would have been damage or health, which I feel like maybe would have been a bit too much for that Mortar, because you obviously want to keep it as a viable win condition in the game. So I think the dead zone reduction was the way to go. But that is the end of the balance change list, guys. I want to hear from you. How happy are you guys with everything included on that list? What would you rate this round of balance changes out of 10? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Are you happy? Are you angry? Are you upset? Are you disappointed? Were you hoping for more? Personally, I'm pretty happy overall. Stuff like Lava Hound getting a much deserved buff. Same thing with the Hunter as well as the Zappies. Those two cards weren't really used in the meta. The Royal Ghost initially, in my opinion, almost sounds like it's getting over-nerfed, especially for being a legendary card. Like I said before, if it were up to me, I probably would have just nerfed the invisibility delay, but they also nerfed the damage as well as the attack speed as well. The Night Witch Bats thing, pretty small, pretty minor change, but the Bats are definitely a very dominant and very influential card in the meta. Goblin Hut, like I said before, I was kind of hoping for a bigger nerf for that, because it's a pretty annoying card to face, if I had to be honest. Mini P.E.K.K.A. Lumberjack bots were pretty surprising, but I'm pretty happy with it as well, because they are pretty fun cards to use. A Lumberjack, in my opinion, for a legendary card, should be a bit stronger in the meta, and maybe could even use a bit of a bigger buff. And finally, you guys already know what I feel about that Mortar nerf. Pretty happy with it overall. The Mortar just way too popular on ladder, so definitely okay with that nerf. I was kind of hoping a couple of cards would have got buffed as well. Things like Lightning Spell, I feel like could use a bit of a buff. In my opinion, if Lightning was back in the meta, things like Goblin Hut wouldn't be as popular as they are right now. And also, you guys might disagree with this, but I feel like the Graveyard could use a bit of a buff as well. It's one of those win conditions that's very risky to use, because there's so many hard counters that exist right now that are popular in the meta. Stuff like Poison, Guards, Goblin Gang, Bats, Minions, etc, etc. So many hard counters for Graveyard in the meta right now make it very hard to use, and I just feel like the Graveyard could use a bit of a buff. But in terms of predicting which decks and which strategies will be popular after the balance update, I definitely feel like Zappies and Hunter will both be very popular after the update. The Zappies being able to target air units is a huge buff. Like I said before, the Infernal Dragon is a very popular and powerful card in the meta right now, and the Zappies now being able to counter that makes it a very effective card. And the Hunter was already pretty low-key strong in the meta. Not too many people used him, but he was a very effective counter against that Royal Ghost, because the Royal Ghost didn't activate until melee range, which of course the Hunter is very strong at. And also things like Mini P.E.K.K.A. and Lumberjack buff is also a small indirect nerf to that Royal Ghost. So let me know which decks and strategies you guys think will be popular or powerful after the balance update. And I also want to briefly touch on the topic of Elite Barbarians and Royal Giant. A lot of you guys might be asking yourself right now, what about the E-Barbs? What about the Royal Giant? They are so strong, so popular on ladder. Well, the truth is, the Royal Giant and the Elite Barbarians, guys, are honestly fairly weak cards. When you go into challenges at Tournament Standard, you will almost never see a Royal Giant being played in challenges, and same thing goes for the Barbarians. They are actually very weak at Tournament Standard, very hard to use. They're only effective when they're on ladder, like over level to level 12, level 13, in like Hog Mountain Electro Arena, low Legendary Arena. Like as soon as you start pushing like above like 4,000, 4,500 trophies, you don't see too many Royal Giants or Elite Barbarians being played. And that's just because it's a lot easier to level up a common card than it is to level up a rare card. For example, if you're facing off against like level 12 Elite Barbarians and you're using a Mini P.E.K.K.A., chances are your Mini P.E.K.K.A. probably isn't level 10, which would be equal to a level 12 Barbarian. It's probably level 8, level 9, which will feel a lot weaker versus those level 12 Barbarians. But that's just a problem with common cards versus rare cards, and not necessarily Elite Barbarians being too strong. Which is why so many free-to-play players stick to using decks that have a lot of common cards. Stuff like Knight, Archers, Ice Spirit are popular on ladder because they are also common cards and easy to level up to counter those high-level Elite Barbarians. But a quick question for you guys, if you have any tips to share for countering over-leveled Elite Barbarians or over-leveled Royal Giants, please feel free to share in the comment section down below. But anyways guys, that will be the end of the video. I know it was a pretty short one, but I wanted to keep it short and to the point, just give you guys all the information you need to know about the new balance update. I might have another video coming out later on tonight for a double upload because this video is so short, or whenever we get a new challenge coming to Clash Royale, I might live stream that as well. But guys, that is the end. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe for some more Clash Royale content. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We will see you in the next one.